It is Mrs. Eisenhower, so that's an interesting one. But we're going to take these in, and I'm going to do, in fact, here's Tin House, but I'm going to separate them, and we'll do a what we found video here from these as well. Okay, so I just got back. I've got these totes full of vintage toys. There's a lot of vintage tin, lead toys, some old masks. This one's one of the most interesting. This is Jesse Ventura, the wrestler. It's an original 90s mask. Should do very well. Most of these are vintage toys. Not all of them, but most of them. A lot of Japanese and foreign toys in here as well. And the bottom of this one, there are some lead soldiers, and there's a ton of them. In fact, you can see some of the earlier ones. This is metal die-cast. This is an earlier one, too. Needs a little work. These are composition figures. That one's lead. So altogether, there's a lot of stuff in here. Most of them are marked. I also got a large 3-foot Shriners poster. Well, it's actually a real photo. That one I paid $40 for. I've got $290 in everything, and there's some gold actually in this box right here. There's a gold chain, there's some gold earrings, some sterling. All together, as I said, I paid $290. Vintage action figures in the whole works, 70s. Some of these figures in here are quite old and quite expensive. In fact, this is a Marx toy right here, and this is one you don't see very often. It is Mrs. Eisenhower, so that's an interesting one. But we're going to take these in, and I'm going to do, in fact, here's Tin House, but I'm going to separate them, and we'll do a what we found video here from these as well. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to look at the stuff that I just purchased. This purchase is around 300 pounds. All told, there's probably maybe 400 different auctions. Maybe it's a little more than that in what I got for that $300. 400 individual auctions. Now, some of this I'm going to show here. We're going to do some bolos for Patreon. For those in Patreon, you can expect to see some close-ups and some good conversation on some of the items toy-wise that you will find. So anyway, that's with that. Let's just start off and get some of the bigger items out of the way. Again, you can see it. I just literally brought it in. At the end of most auctions, you can get a bunch of stuff that didn't sell through the auction on table cleanups. And I do that. Now, I personally did not buy these myself. One of my pickers bought them at the table cleanup, and I just bought pretty much the whole bulk lot as they got them straight from the auction as well, too. Obviously, I paid more than if I went myself. I don't care. To me, it's worth the extra money to pay somebody else to deal with it. I just got to go drive, look at it, and then pick it up if I want it. Again, I don't have to take any of the stuff that I buy, but most of the time my pickers know what I like and know what I will buy from them. So it helps to have a good rapport and tell them what you're looking for. Well, and this is one that let's get out of the way since it's fairly big. Now, this is a Marx Railroad. Most people may just think this is a cheapo thing. It's not worth a fortune, but it's still a nice item. This is a blow mold. And you can hear, and it has a, well, you got to roll it. It's got a bell that dings as well, too. I'll probably have to, yeah, it just needs a fix on the spring. That's an easy one. Now, this doesn't show up very often. There's not a huge amount of collectors, but something like this, I'll probably get $50 for it. I'll list it. This will be gone for Christmas. These show up maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Somebody runs into one of these. Usually they melt, and they're not much good afterwards. It's really a cheap blow mold, basically. It's really soft, flexible. Pierce to it, something setting on it wrong will pretty much ruin these. But they do very well. So $50 off of this. Again, I have 300 into everything here. Now, tins. I have to buy stuff sometimes in a box, or I'll just say, hey, just give me the whole box. And a lot of people will pass these up, but if these are in good condition and they're all here, every piece of it's connected and everything, no rust or anything like that, I get $10 a piece for these. And this is just a Hershey's chocolate car-shaped tin. Now, this is sealed by the person who originally had it. It's one of the knockoffs, I would say, from Thomas the Tank Engine. And why I say it's a knockoff, most everything that I see has a name on it. It's possible it's not. It does have a metal roof on it with plastic that covers it up. But I'll usually just throw these in a lot with some Thomas stuff and just say mixed lot. Yeah, I don't see any logo on it. If you see enough Thomas stuff, you'll be looking for that logo on everything in my book. Now, here's a Chinese company. This is older, probably 90s-ish or somewhere in that range. It's a nice block set. It actually has 48 wooden blocks, the numerals and the characters, the alphabets on all over the sides of them. These go pretty well. I would expect to get 20-25 bucks out of this as it is. This is a nicer set than some in here with the box and stuff. So these do very well. Again, 300 bucks. You know, if you want to add it up as we do it or whatever you want to look at, but these are routine prices. I sell this kind of stuff all the time. These are usually the stuff that's left over when I'm picking up personally, or if I'm buying it from somebody else who got it at an auction, or even sometimes an estate sale. People just don't want to mess with stuff like this. Now, this is, again, another tin. I don't mind tins. I always sell the tins, and the best one that I sell really quickly are the ones that are banks. And this is a bank. This is from Churchill's, which is a very well-known department chain. So, started in England. Very nice one. It's actually a British telephone booth. Very unique. You'd see them in London back in the day. Maybe you still do. Now, I sell vintage greeting cards and things like that. And most people may not realize the Hall Bros on there. Now, let's see if you can see that a little better. It says Hall Bros. That's the name of Hallmark back in the early days, in the 30s and so on. You'll see that name, Hall Brothers, on vintage greeting cards, Christmas, Halloween, or whatever the case may be. Now, I've had this one before. It says 1910 on here. This is like an anniversary piece, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's what I've sold it for a couple times before. And what this one should have, and usually you'll just find the tin, are greeting cards inside. And these are unused. This is from the very first Hall Brothers store. They started with one, if I'm not mistaken. And this says 1910 is when they started with. 20-25 bucks with the cards. Usually, again, you only see the tin. The tin goes for 10 to 15. These are standard ones you'll run into. They made these in the tons, and I mean the tons, like the Coke ones that I run into. These were made in mass quantity. At some point, I think some of these might have been available at Walmart even, to give you an idea on how massive the production on some of these were. But these still sell. I get 10-15 bucks a piece for these Coke ones. This is a gas station. It has the glass globe gas pumps in it, so that's why this one's collected. Anybody who likes old collectibles really nabs up on these. It's got everything you want on them. Another one here. Again, 10-15 bucks on either one of these, pretty much. Put them in a lot and probably get 25 bucks within a few days, if that's what I wanted to do. Now, I've eaten in an old dining car like this at Henry Ford Museum. They have a full-fledged one inside there in Dearborn, just outside of Detroit. I love the atmosphere. There's another one of these in Columbus, Ohio, at a big flea market. They have a diner that looks pretty much like this, honestly. So they're collected by all kinds of people. I never worry about these. I wouldn't pay more than $1 for them, though, honestly, on either of these tins, any of these tins. I paid almost nothing for everything I got. Now, Thomas as well. This one's like a pull-along set, and I'm not really sure on too much. It's a Tommy, so this is a vintage 19, it looks like limited 98 maybe. And you can hear it still working, so the batteries are just dead from it looks like. So I'll pop some batteries in there and go from there. These go for 20-25 bucks if you just let them set. Again, you can go back and look in ended listings for all this stuff. You'll see similar price range, just about my same price. I don't care if it sets for a little while. Christmas, this will probably do very well in Christmas. It's a nice early piece. It doesn't have any big scratches or anything that's distracting, you know, so off it goes. Now, this is an Ohio art piece, Ohio Art Toy Company, and they did a ton of toy stuff. And I'm in Ohio, so this stuff shows up all over the place. I don't know how many times I've found Ohio art stuff around here in real nice condition most of the time. Now, this is a newer one, but it's still probably 70s-ish. It does work. I'm not going to spin it around because it'll go for a little while, but these I get about 15 bucks all day long. Now, if this was an earlier one, the more saucer-ish one that's more rounded on the edge, maybe another 20 years earlier than this, I'll get about double for that if it's in nice condition, depending on the graphics. Now, advertising ones for characters and stuff do very well also. Now, here's another piece that shows up around here all the time. I've had 4 or 5 of these, I think, in my day. Ohio Art again. Their logo has changed. The earlier logo is a globe, and I think Ohio Art is the company that makes the Etch-a-Sketch, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple other toys too. But they started with tin toys in the earliest days. I have the iron that goes with this also. 15, 20 bucks, probably somewhere in that range max. Now I got a bunch of early cars and vehicles and stuff. I'll just show you a box lid of it here, but I got way more than this. I'm probably going to go over some of this in Patreon, just so we can go in some more depth on what's actually here and types of things to look for. But most of this stuff is 10 or 15 bucks for any one of these. Let me show you this one here, because a lot of people pass these up, and I almost always grab them. This is obviously on my BOLO list. Let me see if I can get it close enough where you can see it. You should be able to see it. Now, New Ray is who makes this. This is not a great company. Power Up is the line of this. This is a metal, well-done, well-designed metal toy. And they have cars and all kinds of things like that. On top of that, this is a pullback. It's new. I run into these for 50 cents or $1 all the time. I get 15, 20 bucks for all of these. These are really new. Most people just don't think they hold a value because of the age. Now, these are a couple pairs of cufflinks. And these are railroad related ones. One's for Long Island and one's for Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Pacific. It says CMST and then PNP, and that's the line that this goes to. And again, Long Island Railroad. Cufflinks like this, I get about 25 bucks bare bones minimum for any of the railroad ones. Even the later ones, I still get that kind of money for. These probably date to the 1950s. So these two right here, I should get, say, 65 to 100 bucks for the pair of these. It just depends on how many others have been up in the last little while. But I doubt there's more than, say, one for the last year on either one of these, honestly. These things I look for all the time. I've got about 15 other sets of these as well. So these alone will net me probably twice what I paid for everything if I sell just the cufflink lots that I have. So that's the kind of stuff that I just love. Now, I don't do much in pottery and stuff, but I do mess with mugs and stuff. This is Park Smith Corp 1959, as you can see. And what's interesting about it, it has a roulette wheel that literally moves and spins with the ball and the whole works on the side of it, as you can see here. 20 bucks, 25, 30, 35, 40. I don't know exactly. There are some of these that go. I've had a couple before of these, not this exact design. They've probably got about 150 different designs from what I've seen. But these 15, 20 bucks for the average one, being a gambling one, roulette wheel and the whole works. Again, I'll probably double that much out of it. So excellent thing here. It was in one of the boxes. I'll take whatever comes in here. It's all free basically. Now let me show you a couple of other items here. Now this is an Al Gore mask, and it's new, and I know it's new because when these were sold new, they had a liner. I remember these. I've had other masks before. I got a bunch of these too, mind you. It has a liner in here. This was made so that the face didn't lose its shape when it was hanging, so you would see who it was. You know, they wanted it to be seen. Caesar, it's I think 1989 or 1990. These run from say 10 to 50 bucks depending on the season. Perfect season to get this right up. I will have this up and hopefully gone within the week. And I'll offer a quick shipping if that's the case may be. The best one, though, is this one right here. Let me get it back to shape. You should know who that is. Wrestling ones always go extremely well for us. I haven't seen one of these in years. It's an original, 1999 on this one. Excellent. Brand spanking new, as well as the other ones that came with this. It's got the original hanger card and the whole works. Again, most people might think this is junk, but this is wrestling. This is vintage wrestling, the olden days. As well as, you know, a governor and the whole works too. So excellent, excellent item here. I have no idea what I'll get out of this. I'll probably list it with the starting price of 75 bucks or a real high bin. Now here's another tin item. It's a little tiny doll, like vanity dresser thing here. It pretty much mimics a real one. Back in the 20s, they actually made furniture for adults out of tin and stuff. I have a tin cabinet here that's decked out in this similar style, original too. But these go fairly decent. I'll probably get about 25 bucks or better for this. Has a little bit of an issue up here, but I'm not too worried about it. You know, it's a nice piece. It's still in nice condition. Somebody will probably have it opened anyway for display. Now here's another item I got. This is a functioning set here. There should have been a dustpan with this as well. Dustpan's missing. This is a Bissell Little Queen Probably from the 50s or so, I would say. I don't know if there's a date on it, but it's a working one. It has a real Bissell carpet sweep on the bottom. It's actually made to be used, believe it or not. Same thing with the broom that goes with it. This is probably around 25 or 30 bucks plus shipping on all these items as well. So, you know, I don't mind buying these sorts of items. It honestly doesn't take that long to list something like this either. This will be 4 photographs without a doubt. Close up, long shot, and the whole works. 4 total photographs. It only takes a couple moments to put this up. Bissell, Little Queen, broom, and vacuum set. And that's what this is. This is basically a manual vacuum. Now, I do extremely well with Barbie stuff. And this is loaded with mostly Barbie. There are a few other brands in here also. But something like this with the socks involved and the whole works. And the amount of Barbie shoes. Barbie shoes go very well for us. You don't even have to know which Barbie they go to. I just throw a nice lot vintage Barbie shoes and say how many pairs there are. On average, something like this with this many shoes, I might get 25, 30, 40 bucks for them. The shoes are lost first. If you didn't know that, you should always look for big bags of accessories. Sunglasses, shoes, jewelry for the Barbies. A little tiny pair of earrings for a Barbie figure can go for 40 or 50 bucks if you have the right one. So I always nab this. But again, this was all in a big lot. Now here's a 3-foot photo in a frame. I'm going to sell it just as you see it. This is from my local area here. It's from Toledo. It's the Shriners. And they're in the vintage original style costumes. Let's see if you can see that a little better there. I know it may be a little hard to see, but it's a nice, interesting shot. I'm not sure on where this is at. I would imagine it's probably a national, like camporee or encampment or something along that line. Now, something like that photo, I'll probably get around 100, 125 bucks because it's Shriners. There are people in ads all the time, even on Craigslist, asking for people with Shriners stuff. If you don't know what a Shriner is, this is a Zenobia Shriners. Go look it up. Almost anything that I find with Shriners on it, I sell extremely well. It's a fraternal organization. It goes in collectibles, historical, and then there's a fraternal section. Now, I've already sorted through those tubs, and this is what I end up doing with this stuff. It just goes in bags separated by how I'm planning on listing it. This is not a lot's worth. This is an assortment. These will all be individual items, everything I'm showing you, other than some big lots like this. This is all vintage Disney figures here. These are a mix of action figures and McDonald's figures. So on something like this, 25 bucks or so is about average on what I get for stuff like that. Now here's an interesting one. This one in here is a squirt gun, and I think Masterson or something. I think this is a TV series. This is made by Marks. It is a squirt gun too, so I'm not really sure. The face looks so familiar. It's probably just something along that line. There's some other interesting items. There's some Lency, it looks like possibly a doll in here that's made out of felt, which felt dolls do fairly well. I'll have to look that one up as well. Even if it's a knockoff, it should do decently well. Three Stooges figure in there as well, too. Now, on each item in something like this, 10 bucks maybe. This squirt gun maybe 20, 30, 40. I don't know. I'll have to look that one up, as well as the puppets that are in here. Those do extremely well, and they're vintage 80s and 90s, most everything in this lot here. Another bag of vintage stuff. There's a Cupid doll, some flocked toys, some cute dolls, Little Orphan Annie. Everything in here is named or marked. There's a vintage Barbie jacket. There's an oddball clown bank. Now, if this wasn't a bank, I probably wouldn't have messed with it, but this is a bank. It's got the bank slot on the top as well. And I think it's Kelly, the clown, if I'm not mistaken also. So, a lot of cool stuff in here. Vintage figures like this 50s Playhouse figure. This is one that you could use with the marks and the whole works. I have the whole set to these also, which is probably around 50 bucks or better. Clown head, something like that. 15 bucks, 20 bucks. It just depends. I'll have to make sure of who the clown is on here. Now, vintage Hong Kong stuff. Now, this is an early one, too. This is 60s or 70s. I know it looks like a more modern day one, but the markings on this, he's got good markings on the paws. It looks like an earlier Imperial. Now, if you know what Imperial is, that's the company that does Godzilla figures from back in the day. So that frog could be worth some big bucks, honestly. Now here's another bag of interesting ones. Now most people aren't aware that Mark's made some different sizes, and I have the presidential figures in the small, about 1 1/4 inch size, not the standard 2.5, 3-inch size one that most people find. I've only run into these smaller ones once before, and I only ran into a couple of them. I've got a pretty big set of them. There's some nice early religious items here with a very well-known maker. 5 and dime celluloid figure. A tall Mark's 5.5 inch German soldier from World War II. Well marked also. A lot of good interesting pieces in here. There's a Starsky and Hutch Mego figure in here also with his shoes, pants, and a couple shirts. He's like 20 bucks on his own if I just want to put him up. Early German paper mache and wood flocked sheet. Just some interesting stuff. This bag right here might get me about 100 bucks or better all on its own. So I'll piece these all out. Again, there's probably 400 lots worth of stuff that I got. One fell swoop, all at once for almost nothing. Here's some vintage action figures, including some interesting ones here. I'm going to have to look this one up. It looks like some kind of chipmunk or something. But there's some early Turtles figures, some, let's see, Transformers, The Shadow, early Batman, 3 or 4 different sizes, some Jurassic Park, just a nice mix of them in here. An early Spider-Man. Now this bag here might get me another, say, 50 to 75 bucks. There's a couple figures in here that'll probably get 20, 25 bucks each for that I just don't run into very often. So another good lot there. Now here's some tin stuff. More Ohio art right here, some plates. There's gas pumps. Now here's a few interesting pieces like furniture, plastic phones. I'll probably be able to track down a manufacturer on this one here. It's got some interesting aspects to it. It's this rattle. Something they gave to a infant. Again, it's a choke hazard, mind you, so I'm shocked that they would have done that for something like that. But back in the day. Now there's some other interesting pieces in here like this gas pump. Rather nice, actually. It's missing the globe. This is from a Globe top one. Had a pump that you'd have to have cranked it out. It has the hose and the whole works. This should do extremely well in my book here. So something like this, even though it's parts, I might get 20 or 30 bucks for once I put the brand and all that kind of thing in there also. So now here's some more vintage one. There's some early Star Wars. There's some Gabriel 1970s Lone Ranger figures. Several of the same one even. As I said, Star Wars. A bunch of Mark's figures. Just all kinds of stuff in this bag, too, including some that go back to about 1920-ish, too. Soldiers, German soldiers as well. So here's an interesting mix in this bag. It's got a lot of different things, including some oddball, and I do mean oddball, Santa Claus figures. I'm not really sure. I think that's supposed to be a caricature of somebody. Cake toppers, Santa Clauses from, say, 60s-ish. Rather interesting, including a very nice Christmas-related piece from an Italian company that I've talked about before. Now, this goes to a lot of the Christmas series sets, too. This is a special piece, though, and it looks like it's a coffee grinder of some sort. Very interesting piece. Now, I've talked about these before, and even have a video showing how they are marked in the whole works. Fantini, I think, is the name of the company. Now, here's some railroad miniature people. All of these are designed to go with Lionel all the way down to N-gauge train sets. Now, for people like this, including the Lionel ones that are fairly well detailed, I get some pretty decent money for these. I'll separate these by the gauge, by the size of the person, the character. There's even a few of famous people, like this Little Orphan Annie. It may be a little hard to see, but there she is. Now, this bag here is really a nice one also. These are all metal railroad pieces. Some of these are Tootsie Toys, freebies, Hubley. There's some real neat, interesting Mark's pieces in here also. Let me just show you just a couple. I'll probably show a bunch of these off in a couple Patreon videos on Bolo items. This whole bag has railroad signs and all that kind of stuff in here. Chairs, furniture, benches for a railroad as well. Now this bag here might be $250 on its own or more, depending on what the individual signs. There's early railroad lights, stoplights from like 1920 in solid metal. Definitely some Hubley pieces in here also, Arcade and some other brands also. So excellent one, including gas pumps and things like that made out of solid lead metal. Now I've got a bunch of Trico putts and elastoline figures in there as well. Now I'm going to talk about these in Patreon specifically. These are something you'll find. These date back to the 1930s, and they are also considered railroad figures. They're made in many different countries depending on the brand name, but all of those vintage ones I always grab up also. See, I got a whole bunch of them. This is just a small sampling of what I got. Some of these can go for 15, 20, or even 30 bucks a piece, and I have around 60 of them. So, good collectible for sure. They always sell. They're vintage early, especially if they're in good condition. And the ones that I have are in exceptionally good condition. Really kind of surprised at how good they are. No paint loss, original, and the whole works from the 30s. Now, other items are stuff like this, and it's all pretty much there. I did count the clothespins. Just clothespins. Wooden clothespins can go for some good money, but this is a rack card, and I do believe it was literally sold like this, just mounted on a card. I'll slide these back in. They just clip onto the card. They've just come loose. The string, your clothesline, is still in excellent condition right there. Something like this, 15, 20 bucks. Now, I got a pretty good lot of these too. These are vintage wristwatch bands, and this is a Speidel. Speidel sells fairly well. They're NOS originals. Haven't been messed with, so these should do fairly well, depending on the brand, the size, and things like that. 10, 15 bucks or so I usually get for most of these individually. If I can't sell them that way, I usually just blow them out in a lot, and they go fairly quickly also. Now, there's some interesting piece. What's the brand name on this? Dairy Craft. These are creamer bottles, individual creamer bottles. The little creamers we have these days in those little containers, this is what they used to be. So these aren't like miniatures or anything like that. These show up fairly often. I'll get about 15 bucks shipped for these three right here. So rather nice, rather interesting piece. Most people don't know what they are, but... Now, Britons are another series of lead toys. Now, I can't tip these very much, but I think you can kind of see what's in there. It's a whole band, military band, British, the whole works. Couple of them have some issues, but these are repairable if you don't know enough about these. They were put together at one point from different pieces that were cast, and they're painted. People will buy these and repair them if they're in bad condition. As long as they're all there, I still do extremely well. Now, we're going to go into these in Patreon, but let's just say that some individual pieces by Britons can go for a couple $100 or better. Individual little soldiers or pieces or characters in the whole works. Now, these would have been issued in a box, in a set. I don't know the specific value on this set here. There's so many different ones. There's a couple big, huge, thick price guides just for Britons, if you didn't know. I got a lot of them here. There's some phenomenal pieces also. Here's a nice little box here. This is pretty heavy. There's about, say, 6-8 pounds worth of figures here also. Some of them are well painted and detailed, like this one here. I don't know how well you can see that, but some really nice, interesting ones. Now, there's some that say they're Hubley. These aren't Hubley. I don't know who these are, but they look more modernish to me. These still, though, do sell. It's made from an original mold, would be my guess. Here's another one with a base and the whole works. His arms are in there also, so I'll put these together. One of these characters, just this character here, could get me 20 or 30 bucks, up to, say, 75 if the right person is online at the right time. It is extremely well detailed, and as I said, these will sell individually sometimes for some insane money. This one's phenomenally painted, just an excellent one here. But again, there's probably, geez, 40 different pieces in here or more. Early band pieces and stuff like that too. Now, in some of these, if you don't know your figures, some of these may look newer, but they are not. Some of these do date way back also. It's a rather interesting flag. Something like this may go for 20 or 30 bucks if it's to the right piece or right item. So very interesting all the way around. This little box here should get me a pretty good chunk of change if I separate them out by what goes together and sell the individuals separately. And here's another box. This one's full. There's about, say, 15 pounds of painted and mixed Britons and other brands figures in this lot here. There's some interesting ones. This one's gold. It's got some markings on it. I'll have to take a closer look on this. Some of these are well made and well done. And they're made out of lead, so you can bend them back into place if you're careful on these. It's a nice early lot. There's some Barkley and some other well-known vintage lead brands of toys, including some brand new box ones. This one here is a Shogun Warrior. Very nice limited edition piece. I'm really surprised it's in here. Really interesting piece. Lots of good stuff in this box here. Now, if I separate these out by lots and what they go to, the train ones, the military ones and all, there might be $300 or $400 in this box, possibly. Because there are some really interesting earlier ones in here, as you can see. And this is a vintage piece. It's got a maker mark on it also. Some cannons, early flags, German-made trees. Just a nice, phenomenal mix of stuff. These are all early metal, like this Navy personnel here. Just a phenomenal piece, including items that go on them, like a saddle made out of lead that's been painted, lead sheep and horse riders and the whole works. Just a phenomenal grouping of these. But that's the basics here on what we got. Again, if you're in Patreon, I'm going to go over some of these and we're going to talk about differences and what to look for. I'll give you a nice bolo on vintage toys. But that's what I have. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
Many service areas provide supervised checking facilities for their customers' convenience and for their own protection. Professionals often work in pairs. No one could be more casual than this customer, despite all the activity going on behind her. She is the shield. Often a hidden zipper allows a lifter to do her own stuffing while the partner acts as a lookout.